This is one of the most famous buildings in Kuala Lumpur. Built in 1897, it used to house a colonial government, but today it's been completely transformed into a brand new cultural complex. The question is it actually worth visiting? Today I'm taking you to see the new landmark and tourist hotspot in Kuala Lumpur. The name is quite a mouthful. In Malay, it's Bangunan Sultan Abdul Samad, so these days people simply call it BSAS. Originally completed in 1897, this building once served as a government administrative office. With its striking British colonial architecture, the Malaysian government recently decided to bring the building back to life through an adaptive reuse project. The restoration was completed in January 2026, transforming the historic building into a cultural and lifestyle complex with exhibition galleries, art spaces, cafés, restaurants, and plenty of photo spots for visitors. I've been living in Kuala Lumpur for over a year now, and whenever friends invite me to the Royal Selangor Club across the street, we always sit outside enjoying drinks while looking at this magnificent building. Back then it was still under renovation, so I never really knew what the inside looked like. Now the project is finally finished. It's time to see it for myself. If you're coming from the city centre, near the Petronas Twin Towers, the drive takes about 30 minutes. We decided to take a grab taxi so we could be dropped right at the main entrance, which saves us from walking under the scorching sun. And speaking of the sun, look at the tourists here. Hats, umbrellas, sunglasses, everyone is well prepared. As the taxi slowly turns into the entrance, we get our first close look at the building. There's always quite a crowd. Once inside the gates, the architecture immediately stands out. The red brick arches remind me of my old secondary school in Hong Kong, King's College, Hong Kong, which also has strong colonial architectural features. The gateway itself dates back to 1894, when the foundation of the building was first laid. Walking in, you can really see the blend of British colonial design and Islamic architectural influences. White painted ceilings and walls contrast beautifully with the red brick arches. There's even a courtyard with a fountain and trees in the middle. But today is so hot that I decide to head back indoors almost immediately. Inside, I spot a directory board showing the layout of the complex. Right next to it is the visitors centre, which seems like the perfect place to start. Here, there's a much clearer floor plan showing the locations of the exhibitions, cafés and galleries. One area that immediately catches my attention is the Royal Selangor Gallery, which I would say is the highlight of the entire complex. The gallery showcases the history and craftsmanship of Royal Selangor, famous for its pewter products. Since this region was once known for tin mining, the story fits naturally into the history of the area. Nearby, there's also a gift shop, though it feels more like a warehouse-style market than a carefully designed retail space, and the prices can easily reach hundreds or even thousands of ringgit. Next to the visitor centre are ticket machines listing 4 galleries and a combo package. A foreign adult ticket would normally cost 40 ringgit, but at the moment entry is temporarily free. Apparently the owner decided to waive the ticket fee for now. Moving further inside, there's a short film playing about the restoration project. Unfortunately, I couldn't keep the original soundtrack because of YouTube copyright restrictions, but the footage shows workers carefully restoring different parts of the building. Then we arrive at the Royal Selangor Gallery. This space feels much more like a proper museum. The displays are thoughtfully arranged, showcasing both historic pewter pieces and modern designs. And the air conditioning here is excellent, which makes it a welcome break for the intense heat outside. One of the most interesting features is an interactive display system. You can choose an exhibit on a touch screen, and a camera zooms in on the selected project. I tried it myself, and it's surprisingly fun. There are dozens of pieces to explore, and if you really take your time reading the descriptions, you could easily spend over an hour here. Overall, the concept is quite creative. Before leaving the gallery, one piece immediately catches my eye, a striking lotus-shaped pewter sculpture, which I believe is designed as a candle holder. After that, we head back toward the main hall and continue exploring the rest of the complex. From here, we head back towards the main entrance area. This time, the staff member at the gallery entrance is actually very friendly. Inside this section, there are more premium pewter products on display, but these items are on a completely different price level compared to the gift shops earlier. Many pieces here cost several thousand Malaysian ringgit each, so it's pretty obvious that the sales manager here isn't too interested in tourists like me, because one look and you can probably tell I'm not here to buy anything. Walking further down the corridor, I see even more pewter products. There are even pewter walking sticks, and the cheapest one I spot costs about 3,500 ringgit. After leaving the gallery, we turn the corner and discover one of the bakeries inside the complex. There's a wide selection of pastries here, and the space actually feels quite relaxing. You can sit outside, enjoy coffee and cake, and look across the street at the Royal Selangor Club. This bakery also has a second floor, so I head upstairs to take a look. There's an elevator available as well, which is helpful for wheelchair users, although you need to access it from outside the cafe. Upstairs, the space is surprisingly large. It feels more like a full restaurant with a slightly upscale design. As someone who teaches interior architecture, I can tell that the interior designer has put quite a lot of thought into the space. There's also a large outdoor terrace, and honestly, it feels much more comfortable than sitting downstairs. The street below has quite a lot of traffic, but up here, it's much quieter. One design detail I really like is the plant arrangement. They've used bird of paradise plants placed in pewter vases, which matches the theme of the Royal Selangor pewter brand perfectly. Looking up at the ceiling, there's another detail that caught my attention. The designer used a grid ceiling system. Every air conditioning vent, light fixture, and even the Wi-Fi router is carefully centered within each grid panel. That level of coordination actually requires quite a lot of planning. At the same time, the metallic trim on the ceiling panels subtly echoes the silvery finish of pewter, which ties the design together nicely. After finishing our coffee, we step outside onto the balcony. From here, the view across the street is quite nice, especially looking back toward the Royal Selangor Club. Because this is a historic building, some parts of the structure don't meet modern safety regulations anymore. For example, the original balcony railings were built much lower than today's standards. To solve this, the architects added metal frames and transparent glass panels above the original stone railing. It's a practical solution, although whether it looks good or not is really a matter of personal taste. Interestingly, the staircase railings inside the building didn't receive the same glass treatment, which makes me wonder why. There is one particular spot outside where many visitors like to take photos. From here you can capture both the surrounding cityscape and the building's iconic clock tower. The architectural style of the tower is described as Moorish architecture, something I honestly didn't hear much about during my own interior architecture studies. Continuing along the corridor, we pass several restaurants. One of them, called Kor, seems to be the most popular restaurant in the building. It's definitely the busiest one we've seen today. Further down the hall, we reach a space called Hikayat Chamber, but there's a sign saying Show in Progress. Since I've no idea how long the wait might be, I decide to skip it. Just around the corner is another great photo spot where you can see the courtyard and the building's distinctive colonial architecture. There's also another restaurant nearby with a painting-themed interior design. It's quieter than the others, but the atmosphere looks quite comfortable. Next, we arrive at a space called Harmony Hall. To be honest, the name doesn't really tell you much about what's inside. When we walk in, we see colourful decorations and cartoon-like animal figures. There's music playing in the background and several wooden display boxes with small viewing holes. Looking inside the boxes, each one shows a different scene. A traditional village, something that looks like a Chinatown street, a local cultural festival, and even a forest landscape. Overall, it feels like a place designed mainly for photos and social media check-ins. Some of the lighting effects, however, give the displays a slightly strange atmosphere. It actually reminds me a bit of the paper offerings shops you sometimes see in Hong Kong. There's one corner I quite like though, a simple installation showing the phases of the moon using a very minimal design. That part feels thoughtful and well executed. After that, we move on to another gallery called Visionary Hall. At first glance, the room looks almost empty, just four walls with nothing much inside. I nearly thought I'd reached the end. But then I notice a sign pointing to the next section. Inside, there's a large model of Kuala Lumpur's city centre, along with a giant video screen on the wall. The model itself is quite detailed, but the constantly flashing visuals on the screen can be a bit distracting. It makes it harder to focus on the details of the model. Another issue is that there's very little explanation. Many of the buildings aren't labelled, so visitors might not know exactly what they're looking at. Nearby, there's another room displaying white architectural models of some famous Kuala Lumpur buildings, including the Petronas Twin Towers. But again, there's almost no information provided. No building names, no heights, no construction dates. These kinds of details would really help visitors understand the exhibits better. And that brings us to the end of our quick tour of BSAS. To be honest, I didn't visit every single section. Some exhibitions were still marked Show in Progress, and I was also visiting with friends. We had plans to go back across the street to the Royal Selangor Club for lunch. But if you think this place deserves a deeper look, let me know in the comments. I might come back again and spend more time exploring each gallery in detail. So, the big question is it worth visiting? Personally, I think the adaptive reuse project itself is very well done. Transforming a historic building into a new cultural space is something we talk about a lot in the interior architecture course that I teach. The idea is to give an old building a new purpose while preserving its historical character. In that sense, this project works quite well. But when it comes to the exhibition content, aside from the Royal Selangor Gallery, many of the other galleries feel a little thin. There's definitely room for improvement. If I had to give it a grade, using an A to E scale, I'd probably give it a B or maybe a B-. In some ways, it reminds me of Tai Kwan in central Hong Kong. Both places focus heavily on the restoration and revitalization of historic buildings, but the exhibition content sometimes feels secondary. One thing both places do very well, however, is restaurants and dining spaces. So if you come here for a meal, a coffee, and a relaxed walk around, it's actually a very pleasant place to spend some time. But if you're expecting a full museum experience, it might feel a bit underwhelming. This channel is about the journey of a Hong Konger who left Hong Kong, spent time in the UK, and is now living in Malaysia. If this is your first time watching my videos, and you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and sharing. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.